you know it is one of the all-time greatest chick flicks in the entire world? Ever. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It was one of my first, it was my first real big studio picture. I'll never forget the big thing, of course, is the dance sequence. And it took me 6 days to learn it, and it took Jennifer Garner 3 hours to learn it.
I wanted to know if you could be any other Avenger, which one would it be?
Black Widow. She's badass.
What's your favorite part about like being an actor in like movies and everything like that? Like, is it different from being on stage, or do you feel the same in a movie?
Well, I always say that movies are the director's medium. Television is the writer's medium, and the stage is the actor's medium. It's the one place where actors have full control at the end of the day. There's no one who's going to call cut when you blow it. You're not going to be able to save the performance. What you see is what you get, and as good as you are is as good as you'll be on any given night. I find it to be incredibly thrilling, much more thrilling than doing movies. And I really enjoy the relationship that the actor has with an audience, because that's a whole other aspect of the acting. You're sort of communicating with the audience as well as with the playwright and your other actors, and that doesn't really happen on a film set. That's all I did for the first part of my career, probably 13 years before I could get film work, was all plays. And I did 30 plays in that time, 32 plays in that time. And if you were to ask me where I want to end up, I'll say I hope I die on stage. It's really my favorite place to be.
If you could talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you say?
That's good. Calm down. Thinking back, it was a pretty tumultuous time for me. High school was kind of a tough place for me. I was dyslexic, and but I did a really good job of hiding it. And back then, they didn't really know how to help kids with learning differences. And so at best, I was a CD student, but where I really learned how to act was faking that I knew how to read and write. I had cystic acne as well, and that was also pretty painful as a high school student. But I found an acting community. I was a wrestler my junior year, and I was trying to follow in my father's footsteps, although I didn't have the same amount of talent. And so I'd go by the drama department, and they were doing what the wrestlers were doing, but it was always, they were always laying down on the ground wrestling with each other, but it was always like 2 guys and 15 girls. And I thought, God, they get to do that, and they're not even sweating. And they don't have to cut weight, and that's really what I always secretly wanted to do, But I was afraid it was different than a lot of the, macho guys didn't go out for the drama department back then. But I secretly really wanted to do that, and so I joined the drama department. I dropped out of wrestling, and it was really my dream, my secret dream, to become an actor. And I went to my senior, my teacher, who was teaching drama department, and I asked her very earnestly if it was too late to start at 18 years old and be taken seriously. And she said, no, honey, I think you're going to be fine. Then it was another 20 years till I actually had a career. But I would say to myself back then would be like, take it easy. Don't worry so much. Enjoy yourself a lot more. 99% of it isn't in your control anyway. Do the best you can, and the rest will take care of itself. But make sure that you just give it your best, and don't be so afraid. Always go into your fear. Don't let your fear control your life, if you can. And my adult self, my 18-year-old self would have said, shut up, man.
As the learning resource teacher here, you just mentioned that you're dyslexic. And so how challenging is that for you to memorize scripts?
Very.
Do you have any coping strategies you'd want to share with any of our other students that may be struggling with a similar disability?
Screaming in the night. Throwing things.
Hey, don't be a smart aleck.
It's very frustrating. People who have learning, there probably are people out there who have learning disabilities. It's very, very frustrating. Typically, people with learning differences have very, very high comprehension with very low reading skills. And that makes for a very frustrating experience. One way, so I have a hard time with text, so I record all my lines and I listen to them and learn them that way. There's quite a few apps that you can get now online that are actually scene study apps that you can actually record your lines and your scene partner's lines, and you can learn how to do. You can run your scenes with yourself. But that's one of the things I use now. So I do a three-pronged approach. I read them very quickly without any punctuation, and so the muscles in your mouth get to learn the lines without having to think about it. And I read them as fast as I can, over and over and over again, until I don't have to think about them anymore. And that is really the best way to learn lines, I found. It was passed down to me through two generations of actors, starting with Stella Adler at the Yiddish Theater in the 20s here in New York City. That's how they learned their lines, and that was sent down to me through another Yiddish actor, to Stella Adler, to my teacher, to me. And to this day, that's been a great way to learn them. After a while, you don't even have to think about them. You're just spitting them out. And that's how you want to be with your lines. You want to be so free with them that they're so second nature, then you're free to play with them and to feel with them, to find the subtext behind them. Because the other thing I learned was that the lines mean very little. It's what's happening under those lines that make the actor.
Hey, Cable here. I was wondering, what's the craziest thing you've done on set?
You're too young. God, I'll tell you, with working with the Avengers, it's like herding cats. Well, I was shooting a movie here in New York City, and I jumped down into the subway tracks for a scene, and I got kicked out of the subway after that. That's a very dangerous thing to do. That was probably the craziest, most irresponsible thing I've ever done. We were shooting a scene, and my character wanted to end his life, so he was going to jump down into the subway tracks, but they forbade us from doing it. And in a take, I got carried away, and I jumped down in there. And all hell broke loose after that. And basically, I got thrown off my own set, and I had to go apologize to the MTA. The head of the MTA to be allowed to go back down into the subway and shoot the scene and finish it. That was kind of crazy.
My question is, I sometimes think about some of the experiences you might have had to have, and The Last Castle comes to mind for me, an opportunity. And earlier in your career, with Robert Redford and James Gandolfini, and how do moments like that translate the further you get into this process and start to achieve even more in this industry?
Well, that's, I only have one word to describe that, but that's terrifying. Those guys, I don't know if you guys even know who they are, Robert Redford and James Gandolfini. But they were two actors that I were my idols growing up, two great actors, and that was pretty much my second major film role, and it was incredibly meaningful. I had some really nice, juicy scenes with both of them, and I was mostly shaking in my boots the whole time. But it was one of those moments like, okay, Ruffalo, you BS'd your way to here, man. There's no turning back now. Just keep pretending like you know what you're doing, and maybe these guys won't find out. And I've been doing that ever since. But it was a huge honor, and I stayed in very good contact. James Gandolfini was a really good friend to me and my family, and Robert Redford, who's probably one of the most beautiful humanitarians and environmental activist, really became one of my idols, and taught me how to be an actor that was conscious and humble and willing to give back to some of the good fortune that he had been given throughout life.
What was your favorite role that you ever played?
Oh, that's hard. Well, I love doing that movie. That was a lot of fun because you do some movies and they're just fun, and then you do other movies that touch people's lives or have a serious social impact. And that movie was one of them because I don't know if you guys know that movie, but it's about priest molestations of young people. And it was a true story. It was an investigative journalism story, and how these really scrappy reporters uncovered this cover-up of priest molestations that led all the way up to the Vatican. And it really ended up changing the entire Catholic Church and bringing justice to thousands, tens of thousands of people who've been molested. And doing something like that and having so many people reach out to you to thank you for being a voice for them when they had never been heard and no justice had ever been served was incredibly powerful and said a lot about the power of what we do as actors in this culture. But then there's this fun stuff like the Hulk. I mean, that is such a blast. And I get to play both Banner and the Hulk, and I get to be on set with those people all the time, and such a family. And we have a really good time, and we eat well. And then I did a little movie about a year or two ago called Infinitely Polar Bear. which was very funny and very touching, and that movie was a lot of fun. You know, I have to tell you, I have almost every year I have a new favorite part. I just love what I do, and I love the people that I play, and I really come to enjoy them in my life. And that's why my wife thinks I'm crazy.
What advice do you have for like aspiring actors who want to go into like this kind of business?
Stick around. I'm sure you've heard this before, it's a tough business. And my acting teacher used to say to me, darling, if you can do something else, if you can live with something else, then do it. Only do acting if you can't live without it. Because it's a son of a bitch. I have my friend's parents say to me, oh, what am I going to do? My child wants to become an actor. And I said, there's a lot worse things they can do. All the people that I started acting school with are either writers, producers, actors, directors, playwrights. They're all really, really decent people, thoughtful people who live really good lives, have wonderful families, are part of a wonderful community. The acting community gets we get bashed easily by every other industry in the United States. We're probably the least nepotistic, we're the least destructive, we're probably the most giving and charitable. And so no matter what, you can't do wrong, even if it leads to something else.
What do you miss about Kenosha? Like, is there a place you like to hang out or eat?
The spot? We used to live right behind the spot. You know that little alleyway there? We were 2 houses in from the corner there. And me and my brother used to climb over the wall and go over there and scrounge pennies off the ground to get the spot peach pie. I miss Pence Park. I don't know why, that's probably one of my favorite places that we used to hang out as a kid. I miss Lake Michigan. I miss my grandmother's house there. We lived we were on 39th Ave, right there? Yeah. There was a woods behind my house, and there was a swamp back there that we played all the time. I miss that. I liked to be outside when I was a kid, and there was a lot of places to do that there, and those are the things I miss, and the spot, of course.
I'm a huge Marvel fan, and
I see that.
Yeah. And I was wondering, woo! Which is your favorite Avenger to work with on set and off set, and why?
Well, I just did Thor 3 with Chris Hemsworth, and I had such a great time with him. We were in Australia, yes, we ate all that in a bag of chips. And we had such a good time. He's so much fun, and he's incredibly generous and really, really funny. And I'm looking. I start Avengers 3 and 4, the Infinity Wars, in about 2 months. And I got some good stuff with him again. And then probably Scarlett. And she's amazing. And I had such a great time with them too. They're both, they're a lot of fun, and they work hard, and they play hard, and they're really good people. They're great actors, and they make me laugh, and they make going to work every day a joy. And everyone's like that. Chris Evans is a great guy. Of course, Robert Downey's the king of Hollywood, and the most generous guy. They're all really, really good people. But those are my 2 favorites.
best quality that's had you stand out from all the other auditioners?
To be honest with you, I auditioned for the Ed Norton Bruce Banner, and I had several callbacks for that, and he beat me out on that one. And he was great. He was great as Bruce Banner. And then when they were recasting it, they came to me, and at that point I was like, I don't know if you got the right guy. I mostly do these little independent movies, and then I was friends with Robert Downey, and he called me, and he's like, we got this, bro, come on. Yes. I'm like, I don't know if I can do it, I'm scared. But, you know, he said to me, don't let fear rule you. Take a plunge. And I said, you don't know what you're talking about, old man. No, but yeah, it was Ed Norton that time, and then the second time, I don't know who was in contention. They said to me, I'll never forget, it was the night before Comic-Con, and they were going to announce who was going to be playing Bruce Banner. And I got a call from my agent, and they said, okay, we don't know if you got the part or not. At 5 o'clock in the morning, pack a bag. At 5 o'clock in the morning, look out your window. If there's a limo waiting for you out there, you got the part and you're going to Comic-Con. If not, go back to sleep. Sorry, Charlie. And I woke up at 5. I woke up at 4. Sitting at the window. And I saw the limo drive up, and I was like, yes! And that was it. And I got the part.
Hey.
Hey.
How's it going? Sweet. I really liked Foxcatcher, and like, cause Steve Carell and you and stuff. What was it like to work with Steve Carell? Cause like he shot you.
That wasn't cool. It was, you know, I didn't really work. It was strange. We didn't really see very much of each other, and like you know, that movie was pretty dark, so it was a very kind of heavy set. He was very serious, and he never was not in character. And so the few times I went to talk to him, because his character is a total weirdo, so was he. And it was very awkward with him. And I'll never, there was one night we finished shooting, it was a really hard day, and I got in the elevator, and there he was in the elevator. And we shared an elevator up to the floor we were staying on in the hotel. And we looked at each other and I said, how's it going? He's like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I said, me either. He said, well, at least I'm not the only one. I said, no, bro, you're not the only one. And that was pretty much the most in-depth conversation we had during the entire shooting movie.
You get to play so many different parts, and like each character is like you're playing so many different characters. Is that hard for you to like really get into each character, like being so different and from the others?
It takes a while, but I kind of find it a relief. You know, I think part of the reason I got into acting is because I was kind of uncomfortable with myself, and you know, you get to playing other people, and you know what they're going to say, and you know how the story's going to end, and there's some relief in that. But But I'll tell you, the one thing that I've really come to enjoy about it is getting invited into all these different worlds that people generally, normal people or people in other businesses don't really get to do. If I'm playing a South Boston low-level criminal, all of a sudden I go to South Boston and every low-level criminal in South Boston wants to take me out for beer. If I'm playing a wrestler, then every wrestler in the United States wants to take me out for beer. If I'm playing a cop, then every cop in the United States wants to take me out for whiskey. It's been a real education in humanity for me, and I kind of feel like once you sign on to a part, you got a responsibility to tell the truth about the people you're playing, and that is their physical life, the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they see the world. And that's gotten to be really thrilling for me, actually. It's a challenge, but it's the more you can sort of disappear into a character, that I think the better job you're doing as an actor, really. And so I take it as a serious part of my work, and I've gotten much better at it over the years.
Tell the kids what you told your dad and I happened at the play on Friday night, which was pretty cool.
Oh, we had a special guest. But around show 10, we had President Obama come to the show.
Whoa! What?
That was amazing. And he came backstage. And I came running down the stairs. I'm on the 5th floor. My dressing room was like, couldn't put me further away because I'm so noisy. And I came running down the stairs as I tend to do. And the Secret Service, there was like 20 Secret Service guys standing out there. And they saw me come running down the stairs. They hear this commotion running down the stairs. And they all ran to protect the president. They didn't know what was coming. They thought it was a game. And I ran down and there was a wall of Secret Service. Now I didn't know the president was there yet. So I went backstage and I was like, what's up with the Secret Service? And they're like, we have a dignitary here tonight. I'm like, Pence? And they're like, no. Trump? Like, no, good, Obama's here. And I'm like, that's amazing. and so they snuck him up. When the lights went out, they snuck him up. No one even knew he was there. And he went and he sat in his seat, and before the lights came back on, they snuck him backstage. And at the end of the show, he came back with his daughter. And they came downstairs and did photos with us, hung out with us, and he loved the play. And he said, well, this play is particular. There was a line in the play that said you can't trust the federal government, and the entire audience broke into a spontaneous applause. And literally just about stopped the show. It was like a minute-long applause. And Danny DeVito said, so Mr. President, what did you think of that? When they said you can't trust the federal government, he said if it was two months ago, I would have been very upset.
What do you think you'd be doing if you weren't an actor?
A teacher, probably.
What subject?
That would be the problem. Maybe acting, I don't know. I've taught acting, I've done pickup classes for all my friends who are acting teachers I went to school with. I really like to teach. I like you young people. When I was young, younger, I thought if I could make it as an actor, maybe I'd be a teacher. I would like to have taught literature, but like I'm a dyslexic, so I kids would have finished the quizzes before I would have been able to write them.
Mark, can you also tell about what happened when you had the serious health problem and how that could have jeopardized your career and how did you get through it?
Sure. In 2001, I had a brain tumor, and it was kind of scary, but it wasn't malignant. It was benign, thank God. And but when they removed it, the left side of my face went paralyzed, and it was completely paralyzed. I couldn't move it at all. I couldn't even close my eye. And that lasted for like 6 months, where they told me that it was probably never going to come back quite the way it was. And that was pretty scary. I just finished a movie where it was kind of my breakout role. It led to the last cast, so it led to a lot of other jobs, but I couldn't take them because my face was paralyzed, and I actually expired for a movie for it. And well, I wasn't fired. We mutually parted ways because I couldn't move the left side of my face. And that was scary, and I thought that was pretty much the end of my acting career, as you know. But miraculously, it slowly started to come back. It isn't fully back. You guys probably don't notice it, but I do. And but it was one of those moments where you're like, okay, dude, what are you made of? I just had my son, my first child, our first child. We were only married for a little bit over a year. And starting to think maybe I was going to have to start a career teaching. But when you overcome those kinds of things, they become prizes for you, you know. Those kinds of things end up making you stronger if you can get through it. And I coined a phrase then: what doesn't kill you makes you wish it had.
I was wondering if you would get your own solo Hulk movie anytime soon.
No, it's not going to happen. It's owned by Universal. The whole title is owned by Universal, and Universal and Marvel just can't seem to get along. And so, as much as I pushed and shoved and asked, the closest I'll ever do is a three-hander, which I just did with Chris Hemsworth in Thor 3. But I will be in the Avengers 3 and 4. And there might be some interesting stuff coming down the line in that way. But sadly, as of this moment, I do not see one on the horizon, and I'm not sure you guys want to see the 60-year-old Hulk.
At the start of your career, how long did it take for you to get your first real acting job?
A long time. Well, I got a Clearasil commercial, which you can see online and laugh at. That was my first acting. That was my first paying job, and then I didn't work again for 8 years after that. I didn't get paid for it. I did 30 plays, which I didn't get paid for. And it wasn't really until I was 28. I showed up in LA when I was 18. And it wasn't until I was 28 until I could quit my day job and support myself very, very meagerly on my acting salary.
I do follow you on Twitter. I think that your water conservation platform is tremendous, especially with us living next to Lake Michigan. What other programs or organizations do you support?
So I founded 2 organizations. One of them is Water Defense, and we do water testing in impacted areas, and we release those tests to the public. Right now, if you wanted to find out what was in your water, the state EPA, not the state EPA, nor the EPA would release the tests to you. That information isn't made public. You're only told whether that water is clean or not, but you'll never know what's actually in it. And the threshold for actual harmful chemicals in your water is much higher than is really healthy. So in places like Flint, Michigan, Chicago, we do testing for the community and release those tests directly to the community so they can fight for the health of their families. The other one is a solutions project, which is to push the transition to 100% renewable energy in the United States and the world by 2050, using wind, water, and sun technology, creating 3.5 billion net gain in jobs, which means all the fossil fuel jobs we would lose, we would actually gain 3.5 million new jobs. This is the way to stop climate change in its tracks and to make a healthier planet for you guys. That's based on science that came out of Stanford University. And if you go online, you can see both the Solutions Project out of RT, and you can see there's a plan for Wisconsin to take Wisconsin to 100% renewable energy by 2030, based on the technology we have available today, and save each one of your families thousands of dollars a month by transitioning to 100% renewable energy.
But I just can't I can't thank you enough for being generous with your time and joining us this afternoon and sharing this hour with us. We truly appreciate that. And if you're ever back in Kenosha, please stop by. We will treat you to the spot or whichever you would like.
I like that. It was an honor. And I'll just say to you guys, what I say to all of my castmates every night, break their hearts, leave it on the stage, crack yourself open, don't be afraid, jump right into it and give it your very, very all. Leave it all on the stage.
They will. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.